The Frontier League is one of many independent baseball leagues that operate outside of the MLB framework. Just before we get into the stadiums, I wanted to point out something strange with this league. The most recent champions, the River City Rascals, no longer exist. They went out with a bang, I guess. With that being said, here are the Frontier League ballparks. Starting off with Palisades Credit Union Park, home of the New York Boulders. Named after New York State, presumably, because it's a long way from New York City, or any other major city for that matter, in an idyllic setting surrounded by trees. It's a modern style ballpark just a few days from its 10th birthday at the time of recording. In the outfield, not only is there a decent amount of seating, there are also a couple of very unique features, including the bridge bar in left field that resembles the stone bridges in the area, and this slightly unusual seating area in right field called the short porch. We've got off to a pretty good start with this one. Joseph L. Bruno Stadium, home to the Tri-City Valley Cats. The ballpark is located on the campus of the Hudson Valley Community College. But make no mistake, it was purpose-built for the Valley Cats. Well, they didn't exist yet, but it was built for a new team, which became known as the Valley Cats. It too has a pretty good-looking modern exterior, and a fairly decent view of some nature from your seats. Yogi Berra Stadium, home to the New Jersey Jackals. It's not only named after the legendary player/coach/manager, but it also features a Yogi Berra museum, right there. Although the ballpark is otherwise rudimentary, it has to be one of my favourites in the league. Largely due to the grass berm on the right, which looks like it's been carved into a forest. It really does look like a great place to have a picnic. You could make a joke that Yogi Berra sounds like Yogi Bear, and that it would be a bit risky to have a picnic. But I'm not going to. That would be in poor taste. Skyland Stadium, home of the Sussex County Miners. This one is located in the middle of nowhere, literally surrounded by farms. And the ballpark's design is very befitting of a farm setting, given that the whole place basically looks like a barn, which is just so cool. It is surrounded by farmland, like I said, but from your seat, you wouldn't really know it because it sits at the base of a small hill and faces that direction. Wild Things Park, home to the Washington Wild Things. Not Washington the city or the state, but the town in Pennsylvania. I can almost guarantee that they play that Wild Things song. It's a simple ballpark with a fairly typical brick exterior, not bad. And although still scenic, the view you get from your seats isn't quite as natural looking as the others we've seen so far, due to the large power pylon on the hill. DuPage Medical Group Field, home of the Joliet Slammers. This one is a little bit different. Hang on. Sorry, it's this one. For the most part, it's a fairly straightforward design, with most of the capacity coming from the single tier of seating, but there is actually a small overhanging section of seating above as well. But I think its best feature is probably the dark brick and steel exterior, which is appropriate given that Joliet is known for its steel production. It actually once had the second largest steel mill in the US. Due to its proximity to the train tracks, it could easily be mistaken for a train station, especially with that clock. Mercy Health Stadium, home of the Lake Erie Crushers. As the name suggests, the stadium's not too far from Lake Erie. You know, I don't want to speak poorly of one of North America's natural wonders, but I always thought it would be bigger than that. Or is it that one? Not sure. This stadium has a similar seating layout to Joe Bruno Stadium, but it has a particularly large grass berm in left field, as well as a wraparound concourse. And the exterior is a lot more traditional looking, with red brick and hits of green. Wintrust Field, home to the Schaumburg Boomers. I bet it's always controversial when the Boomers go over to Sussex County and visit the Miners. You may have noticed that the field dimensions mimic those of Wrigley Field. In fact, this place was the proposed site of a brand new Wrigley Field in the 1980s. This was because the Cubs were facing obstacles to allow night games at Wrigley Field, so it looked like a move to the suburbs was necessary. And it doesn't get much more suburban than this. It's literally in people's backyards. I do really like this ballpark, especially the imposing brick exterior. Ozinga Field, home of the Windy City Thunderbolts. I don't know if it was intentional, but it is a rather appropriate name given that the ballpark is surrounded by these power pylons. Plenty of thunderbolts in those. This ballpark has an interesting seating situation. It's split down the middle. There's an upper deck on this side and none on this side. I'm not sure why that's the case. Does this side have a better view? Not particularly. Oh look, there's Chicago way off in the distance. Anyway, at least the side that is built up has a nice exterior. Boss Field, home to the Evansville Otters. Now, this is intriguing. It's clearly a very old stadium. They don't really make these semicircle style stadiums anymore. It seems like all the seats are facing the pitcher, which makes sense, but it does also mean there's a lot of foul territory between the seats and the diamond. Another thing that's a little unusual is that on the other side of the outfield wall, they have grass, but it's not a berm, it's just grassy flat ground. And as you might expect, it has a very traditional brick exterior. It kinda looks like an old prison or something when lit up. Yarls Ballpark, home of the Florence Yarls. I've heard a lot of team names before, but that has to be one of the most unusual. Even stranger than the Rocket City Trash Pandas. But putting that aside, it's a pretty nice ballpark. You don't often see that tri-color seating on a baseball stadium. They have also got an upper deck of seating with a small roof canopy and a somewhat castle-like exterior. Oh, and wouldn't you know, we're in Kentucky and there's a KFC right over there. GCS Ballpark, home of the Gateway Grizzlies. Although it's in Illinois, it is just across the way from the St. Louis downtown airport. I guess that's why they're called the Gateway Grizzlies, because it's like a gateway to Missouri or something, I don't know. To the ballpark itself, the section behind home plate is very similar to the last one. It's a pretty good looking ballpark, but the thing that piques my interest the most is the so-called Baseball's Best Burger, which was on Man vs. Food. It uses a donut as the bun, which is not uncommon these days, but it's been around a while, so it was definitely ahead of its time. See, that's why China can never usurp America as the world's most powerful country. Because, yes, they invented gunpowder, but could they ever come up with an invention that changed the world like this? Rent One Park, home of the Southern Illinois Miners. It's a very modern ballpark with a mostly grey and charcoal exterior, which is matched by grey seats on the inside. I like it. The traditional ballparks are good as well, but variety is the spice of life. Other than that, there's not too much else to say. It's a great little ballpark. Now on to the three Canadian teams, two of which have merged for the 2021 season and have become a travelling team. The other is not competing in 2021. But I'll just go with the regular teams and their stadiums. Starting off with Stade Canac, home of the Quebec Capitals. Capital. However they say it in French. Incredibly, this unassuming ballpark is the biggest active baseball stadium in Quebec, a province that used to have Major League Baseball. It's a very classical design, both inside and out, but I particularly like the exterior. that's done up in the Art Deco style that was popular when it was built. If you ignored the floodlights up top, you could be mistaken for thinking it was a theatre or something like that. From your seats, you can even see some of Quebec City's high-rises peeking out over the trees. Stade Quilorama, home to the Trois-Rivières Aguiles, or something like that. It's just a little way down the St. Larry River, and it's an extremely similar looking stadium. This one is a little bit different, however, not just the colour of the exterior, but the fact that it's just a few feet from a racetrack. Talk about noisy neighbours. But yeah, that facade is very similar. But this one was opened 1 year before the last one, so I guess they can claim bragging rights in that respect. Stade Canac does have a slightly better view from the seats though. And finally, RC GT Park, home of the Ottawa Titans. We saved the biggest till last. Not really, it happened to work out that way. And although it's big, it is fairly simple. Other than the split-level seating bowl and a small grass berm, there isn't much else to speak of on the inside, but the exterior is unlike anything else in this league. It definitely isn't a traditional baseball aesthetic. In fact, it looks more like a basketball arena. Well, actually, this is Canada, so a hockey arena. But it looks pretty good, to be fair. And those were the Frontier League ballparks. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, have a good one.